We are learning hepatitis today. What is hepatitis? What do you understand by hepatitis? It has itis in it, right? So itis is inflammation and inflammation of liver. Hepat is liver. So inflammation of liver. We'll be studying today specifically the hepatitis viruses, hepatitis A, B, C, D, E. All these viruses will be covering today. Remaining other viruses such as yellow fever virus and this CMV, EBV, herpes simplex, all this will be covered in the next lecture. Okay. So we are focusing on only hepatitis hepatitis from A to E viruses as we name them. Why are they named as hepatitis viruses? Because they are hepatotropic. They are capable of causing liver inflammation, specifically liver inflammation. All these other viruses, you can see that they can affect other systems also, but here the primary site of target is hepat. Okay. There are some common symptoms that you will observe in these hepatic viruses. Why are we classifying them? We are classifying them to understand their chronicity, because not all of them are classified into acute or chronic. All of them have different transmission route, and all of them have, even some of them do not have any treatment options, or it also depends on comorbidities, their affinity to other viruses, all of that. That's why we are describing them as hepatitis viruses. Okay. So you can see that there are similar clinical illnesses that you will observe in these cases, that is fever, nausea, fatigue, jaundice. So there is something very specific here. What is this? Jaundice, right? All of this can tell you about something else, but jaundice, you can relate this to liver inflammation or biliary tract inflammation, right? And all these viruses, they are capable of causing identical histopathological lesions in the liver. That is why they are also classified under the same name group, like hepatitis. Okay. So I told you that we are learning hepatitis A, B, C, D and E virus. Out of these, you have to remember that hepatitis A virus and hepatitis E virus has fecal-oral route of transmission. What is fecal-oral route of transmission? Your food and water might get contaminated with the fecal matter, and then this causative agent goes inside your body through the mouth, whatever you are consuming, right? So out of this, hepatitis A and E virus has fecal-oral route of transmission. Okay, and rest other three, they are transmitted by blood through sexual contact or blood contact. Okay, so what you have to remember, there is no D virus without the B virus. So whenever you are mentioning hepatitis D, you have to mention hepatitis B, because hepatitis D is not capable of causing singular infection. Okay. Now coming to the family, these are the common names that were given to them before they were classified. Coming to the family, HIV virus was previously known as enterovirus 72, but later it is classified into family Picornaviridae. Okay. HBV belongs to Hepadnaviridae, HCV belongs to Flaviviridae. This is unclassified virioid-like because this does not have its own envelope. Okay, so it is also known as defective virus. Okay, and HEV belongs to Calciviridae-like family. Okay, so you can see here hepatitis A virus and E virus, they are non-enveloped viruses, and rest B, C and D, they are enveloped viruses. Okay, so about the genome, all these viruses are single-stranded RNA viruses, except hepatitis B virus is a partially double-stranded DNA virus. Okay, this is very easy to remember. Only hepatitis B virus is partially double-stranded DNA virus. Rest all are single-stranded RNA viruses. Okay. Then about the route of infection, we have already discussed. Amongst these viruses, you can see in HIV virus, children and young adults are mostly targeted. okay, and rest others relate to the route of transmission. So if there is a risk factor, these viruses can cause disease. So incubation period, you can remember it like this. See, for HIV virus, it's average 30 days. For HEV virus, it's average 40 days. And for HCV virus, it's average 50 days. Okay? 30, 40, 50 like this. And HBV and HDV, they cause co-infection. You can remember in that case, the average incubation period is 60 to 90 days. Okay? Now, amongst all these viruses, they are able to cause fulminant disease. What is fulminant disease? Acute attack of severe inflammation. Okay? So, amongst all these viruses, HEV causes high risk in pregnancy. In pregnant females, HEV has high risk of causing acute hepatitis, fulminant hepatitis. Okay? Then, amongst these viruses, you can see that carrier and chronicity is not seen in HAV and HEV because the route of transmission is also different, fecal-oral route. So, they do not cause chronicity. Chronicity is seen in hepatitis B, C and D virus. Okay, and amongst these, hepatitis B and hepatitis C has capability to turn into carcinogenic. Like they can cause hepatocellular carcinoma. And amongst these viruses, hepatitis C is most commonly known to cause extra hepatic manifestations such as glomerulonephritis, joint pain, okay, autoimmune. So, hepatitis C, and this is also known as post-transfusion hepatitis, okay, post-blood transfusion hepatitis. This was in brief about all these hepatitis viruses. So, you should be able to remember this classification. Coming to hepatitis A virus, we discussed that it has the fecal-oral route of transmission. You can get it from the raw or undercooked meat or food. It is the communicable disease of liver, right? But it is vaccine preventable. There are vaccines available for hepatitis A virus. What are the other viruses, hepatitis viruses you have known that there are vaccines available? Healthcare workers are recommended to take which vaccine? Hepatitis B vaccine. So, A and B are vaccine preventable. There are also vaccines available for hepatitis E virus in certain countries. Okay, so these three viruses are vaccine preventable. Now, this has linear ssRNA genome. It has icosahedral symmetry and it is about 27 to 30 nanometers in size. It belongs to Picornaviridae family. Humans are the most known reservoirs of this virus. Most commonly, it affects children and adolescents. Majority remains subclinical. Subclinical means do not show any symptoms, okay, but the virus is present there in the body, in the blood. Adults are more icteric. It means adults show more symptoms of icterus. Yellowish pigmentation of the skin, jaundice, sclera yellow ho jana, ye sab. Okay? These are the icteric phases. What is the risk factor? Overcrowding, poor hygiene. Where do you see this overcrowding and poor hygiene? So, this hepatitis A infection occurs mostly in summer camps, daycare centers, even marriages, melas, right? So, all these, they also have seasonal incidents. Seasonal incidents means they occur in the late rainfall or in the early winters. Okay? What is the reason here? Because during early winters and during this time, people gather a lot, right? Because of the good weather and all. Then, viral excretion in feces occurs 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after the symptoms appear. Incubation period average is about 30 days. It means it can range from 15 to 45 days. There are two phases, pre-icteric phase and icteric phase. During pre-icteric phase, you will see predominant GI symptoms such as nausea, vomiting. During icteric phase, you will see this yellowish sclera, yellowish mucous membranes, dark urine, all these symptoms you will see in icteric phase. Okay? But complete recovery occurs in most cases. In 98% of cases, complete recovery is seen. Okay, there is no specific drug you can give for hepatitis A virus. You just have to observe and manage the symptoms. And there is no chronic or carrier state also. So only active cases of hepatitis can spread the infection. Okay. But what are the complications? It can cause fulminant hepatitis. We saw that. What was the common cause of fulminant hepatitis in pregnancy? Hepatitis E virus. Okay. So, see, there is relapse also. Relapse can also occur. This infection might come back after a few weeks or months after the symptoms have subsided. After the treatment is done, after patient is cured, there can be a relapse, and it also leads to cholestatic hepatitis, jaundice due to cholestasis. Okay, these are all the complications of hepatitis A virus. How do you diagnose them? Since we are talking about the virus, are you able to culture them in the laboratory like bacteria? No. So we rely upon serology. In serology, we see two things. What is that? Antigen and antibody. You will find antigen where? This is jaundice. So, in blood serum, you will see antigens, and in stool samples also, you can check for antigens. Where you will find the antibodies? Blood serum. What are the two kinds of antibodies you are checking for? IgM and IgG. IgM relates to acute infection and IgG relates to chronic infection. So, are we talking about chronicity here? No. But in this case, you will see that after 2 weeks, post 2 weeks, the IgM will start occurring in the blood. Okay. And right after the IgM have appeared in the blood, IgG antibodies after 1 week or so, they will appear and they remain for decades in the blood serum. So you can see this graph is going up, but IgM graph is coming back to normal within 3 to 4 months. Okay. So what is the difference of the IgM and IgG occurring? It's about 1 week, right? You can also detect HAV particles by immune electron microscopy and detection of HAV antigen we discussed. We can see that in stool or non-specific test, that is liver enzymes elevation and bilirubin elevation. Okay. There is no specific drug we can give for hepatitis A. So what is better? Prevention is better than cure. So we'll go for hand washing. Whenever you are eating the food or whatever you are doing after performing any unhygienic thing, you can prefer hand wash always. And if there is sanitary disposal of fecal material, fecal contaminated material, you will dispose it after disinfecting with sodium hypochlorite. Okay. And purification of drinking water either by boiling or chlorination. These are the preventions for hepatitis A virus. Now coming to the vaccines that are indicated for A virus, there are two kinds of vaccine. First one is formaldehyde inactivated vaccine. This vaccine is given to children post 12 months of age in these at this age gap. See, this single dose is administered here, but protective efficacy is about 90%. What is efficacy? It means 94% less risk of infection in the given area. Okay. What is effectiveness? Effectiveness you can see when you have already given the vaccines and how it perform in the persons. Okay. So this is formaldehyde inactivated vaccine, and there is attenuated live vaccine, which is also given as single dose subcutaneously. These both vaccines are highly immunogenic, right, because they are not not subunit vaccines or anything. They are highly immunogenic. They produce long-lasting immunity and possibly lifelong. To whom we will give these vaccines? We saw that it's recommended for children more than 1 year of age, people traveling to the endemic zones of hepatitis virus, and patients with already chronic liver diseases. Okay, these 3 people we are giving this vaccines. We know about immunoglobulin. Immunoglobulin, we have known that it is used in hepatitis B cases also, right? For hepatitis A also we have this immunoglobulin. It is not necessary for already vaccinated casual contacts or elderly people. Why elderly people? Because we saw this hepatitis A virus was causing infection to mostly children and adolescents. So there is a chance that this children or adolescent was already infected with the hepatitis A virus and he developed the antibodies. So there is no requirement of passive immunization in these cases. Okay. Casual contacts, office, factory, school, hospital. Why? Because there is a chance they might have acquired hepatitis A virus asymptomatically, and as 98% they have a good prognosis, they get auto healed, so they also have these antibodies. Okay. Coming to hepatitis B virus. Hepatitis B is the only DNA virus, we saw that. It was discovered by Blumberg in 1963. He was given Nobel Prize for this discovery. He also invented vaccine for this virus. Through electron microscopy, you will be able to see spherical form, tubular form or complete Dane particle of this virus, which you can see like this. Can you see here? This is electron microscopy picture. This is graphical representation. Here can you see this circle? These are the spherical forms and these are the tubular forms. What is this? This is Dane particle. This is a complete virus. Okay? These are not complete. These are complete virus. What else is there inside this Dane particle? You know that it's a double-stranded, partially double-stranded DNA virus. So you can see here this double strand, but here it's discontinuing. So it is partially double-stranded DNA virus. Okay. Then you can see this surface antigen. There is surface antigen and there is core antigen, and there this is precore antigen. We call this as precore antigen, which is known for infectivity. Okay. HBeAg is precore antigen known for infectivity. Okay. About hepatitis B antigen, surface antigen, it was initially known as Australia antigen. Okay. This antigen has 2 components. Out of these 2 components, antigen A epitope is common for both. Okay. This is the antigen A epitope that is common for both, but there are 2 pairs of specific type of antigen which are denoted as D/Y or W/R. So whenever you are denoting a virus, viral genome, you have to say that either one of this is taking part. So A is common. So there are 4 subtypes of HBsAg antigen which are ADW. See, ADW. So this is how you will be able to form the 4 pairs, 4 subtypes of antigen: ADW, AYW, ADR and AYR. Where this ADR, AYR came from? From here, right? These are 2 subtypes, but only one out of this is taking part. Okay. Coming to hepatitis B, core antigen. C denotes core. It is intracellular and it do not circulate in the blood. So whenever you have to observe this antigen, you will be able to see it in the immunofluorescence microscope. This will not be circulated in the blood, only hepatitis B surface antigen and precore antigen, that is E antigen, it will be circulated in the blood. Okay. We saw about precore antigen. This is hepatitis EAG. It denotes what? Infectivity. It is HBV is divided into 10 genotypes from A to J, right? In India, you have to see that genotypes D more than A are common. Now coming to the gene, this consists of 4 overlapping gene, S gene, C gene, X gene and P gene. Okay, out of this S gene has these 3 regions, S gene, pre-S gene and pre-S2. They code for what? Surface antigen. We saw that from pre-C region, pre-core region, there is hepatitis B E antigen, and core region, it codes for hepatitis C antigen, which was not circulated in the blood. Out here, X gene contributes to the pathogenesis of carcinogens by binding to P. Anybody wants to tell what is P53? Okay. So, this will lead to pathogenesis of carcinogenesis. X gene is related to pathogenesis of carcinogenesis. Then there is P gene. P gene has 3 enzymatic activities that help in the virus replication, that are DNA polymerase, RNase H and reverse transcriptase activity. Okay, this will help in what? Viral replication, hepatitis B virus replication. But whenever there is genome involved, you can think about mutants. So there are 3 mutants that we come across in hepatitis B virus. They are named as pre-core mutant, escape mutant or YMDD mutant. This is basically tyrosine, methionine, aspartic acid region mutation. Okay. So what happens in the pre-core mutants? They do not produce HBeAg. Okay. Although other viral markers are present, but since they do not produce HBeAg, we understand that there is no infectivity, there is no active replication, and that's why it severely, rapidly leads to cirrhosis. So there is rapid evolution of cirrhosis in these cases. Then there is escape mutants. What is escape mutants? You can see that mutation in the S gene, it leads to the alteration of HBsAg antigen. This hepatitis surface antigen is the first antigen to develop in the blood serum. Okay, so when you see that there is mutation in S gene, there is alteration to hepatitis surface antigen. Where do you find this? In the infants born to hepatitis E antigen positive mothers. It means in the mothers the active inflammation is there, infectivity is there. Okay. Also the liver transplant recipients who underwent procedure for hepatitis B and they were given anti-HBs preparations. In these people also you can see mutation, escape mutation. And these people, they remain underdiagnosed because there is no proper HBsAg antigen, they remain underdiagnosed by routine serological testing. And there is vaccine failure because this anti-HBs present in them, they cannot neutralize the other HBsAg negative mutants. Then YMDD mutation, we talked about YMDD locus that is present in this region of polymerase gene. So whenever you are treating the patient with lamivudine, it might develop resistance to this drug because this drug acts on DNA polymerase. Okay, understood? So we saw 3 kind of mutations. What are the 3 kind of mutations we saw? First one is pre-core mutation. Okay, second escape mutation, and last one YMDD mutation. Out of this, which was leading to drug resistance, lamivudine, YMDD mutation. I have written here now, lamivudine therapy may become resistant because this drug acts on this region where there is mutation. Okay. Now, how does the transmission of hepatitis B take place? Mostly parenteral route, through blood transfusion, through sexual contact, vertically from mother to fetus, even during breastfeeding or any blood contact like sharing the common razors, okay, common needles, all this can lead to hepatitis B infection. Okay, what is the risk of infection? Hepatitis B poses 30% risk of infection through transfusion. Okay. What are the other viruses? HIV stands for 0.3% and HCV for 3%. What is the high risk group of people that can acquire hepatitis B infection? Do healthcare workers come in this? Yes, because we are dealing with the sharps that we use to treat on the patients, and they might get pricked with these sharps, needles, or any surgical instrument. So surgeons, they bear the maximum risk. Paramedical workers, these sex workers, recipients of blood transfusion, organ transplantation, and drug addicts, because these drug addicts, they share the needles. Okay. There are some epidemiological patterns that we observe that are known by the low endemicity and intermediate endemicity. Intermediate endemicity carrier rate is between 2 to 8%. India falls in this zone. So we can either go below 2% or more than 8% at any point of time. So we are in the intermediate endemicity zone for hepatitis B virus infection. Hepatitis B followed by hepatitis C is the most common cause for all these: chronic hepatitis, cirrhosis, HCC, post-transfusion hepatitis. Okay. How can you destroy this virus? With the help of hypochlorite or heat. By heat we mean autoclaving. Okay. Then what is period of infectivity? People infected with HBV are infectious as long as they have this surface antigen present in the blood. Once this surface antigen disappears and it is replaced by anti-HBs antibody, the person becomes ineffective. Okay. But maximum infectivity is observed when there is hepatitis B E antigen, which is precore antigen in the blood. I told you from the beginning that E denotes infectivity. Whenever there is E antigen present in the blood, you have to think about active inflammation, high infectivity from this patient. Okay. Incubation period average was how much? 60 to 90 days. Also in hepatitis D, it was 60 to 90 days. Onset is very slow and insidious. Patient may present with subclinical infection or acute or chronic hepatitis. There are also again pre-icteric phase or icteric phase. Clinical outcome could be either the carrier development to carrier state or complete recovery. So whenever there is hepatitis B acute inflammation, you can expect recovery from this patient. Except few cases, they might become carriers, and some cases they will develop into chronicity. By chronicity, I mean cirrhosis, liver failure, or hepatocellular carcinoma. Okay. Now coming to antigen markers. It is very important for the diagnosis. You might get exercise questions on diagnosing the phase, or interpretation of the reports based on these markers. So take a look at this. This is hepatitis surface antigen. This is the first marker to appear in chronic, acute, or even in carriers. Okay. So hepatitis surface antigen is the first marker to appear. Then there is hepatitis E antigen. It indicates active viral replication and high infectivity. Do we expect hepatitis C antigen in the blood? We do not expect hepatitis C antigen in the blood because it is not circulated in the blood. Okay, if you have to observe this core antigen, you have to perform immunofluorescence. Right? So we are dealing only with the two antigens. First is hepatitis S surface antigen and hepatitis E, that is infective, high infectivity antigen. Hepatitis B E antigen. Okay. Now antibody markers. We saw that there is surface antigen, there is infective E antigen. So there will be antibodies against surface antigen, anti-HBs AG antigen, anti-E antigen antibody, right? But along with this, for core antigen, even though there were no antigens in the blood serum, we have two kinds of antibodies for core antigen. What are those antibodies? IgM antibody and IgG antibody. So by that, the first antibody to appear in the blood is anti-HBC IgM antibody. Okay. Second one will be anti-HBe antibody. Third one will be anti-HBC IgG antibody, and the last one to appear will be the marker of recovery or vaccination. This will be anti-HBs antibody. What was the first antigen to appear? Surface antigen. What was the last antibody to appear? Antibody to surface antigen. Okay, first and last. What was the first antibody to appear? IgM anti-HBC. Very good. Okay. What else you can do? You can go for HBV detection, that indicates high viral replication and high infectivity, and this viral DNA load will help you see the treatment response, the prognosis of this patient. Okay. There are some non-specific markers we already saw, that are liver enzymes and serum bilirubin. Take a look at this graph. What can you see here? What is this? This is the first antigen to appear. This is hepatitis surface antigen. Here it ends, and from there, when it disappears in the serum, anti-HBs antibodies are formed. Okay. Then the second antigen to appear is HBe antigen. From there, you have this anti-HBe antibody, and the first antibody to appear is IgM anti-HBC and IgG anti-HBC. Okay, where IgM stops producing, IgG will take over. Okay, so what can you see in recovery and vaccination? You can see anti-HBs antibodies. Okay, when there is anti-HBe antibody, it means low viral infectivity. Okay, phase of recovery also you can say. So these are the kind of charts that might be given to you. You can see here interpretation. See, whenever there is surface antigen, you can tell that there is infection. Okay, based on the antibodies, you'll be able to figure out what kind of infection you are dealing with, either acute or either chronic. And based on anti-HBe antigen, antibodies, you will tell that this is a simple carrier. Because why? There is DNA virus present, so this becomes a carrier. But here, hepatitis E antigen is not there. Okay? But in here, there is IgG and IgG antibody, there is no anti-HBs, so it makes this person a carrier. But here you can see DNA virus is also present and hepatitis E antigen is also present. These people, they are known as supercarriers, immunotolerants. See, when there is no H-base AG present, this H-base AG mutation you had seen in escape mutants, right? So, whenever other markers are present, you will be able to tell that these are escape mutants. And you will see that no H-base AG but anti-HBs is there, so recovery and post-infection you can see. So, you just find out what is the difference. Like you can first tell, depending upon the course of these viral markers, they appear in the blood, you will be able to figure out. Okay? Just remember that S is for surface antigen. It is the first antigen to develop in the blood. Last antibody to develop is also surface antigen antibody. Okay? What is the treatment? But before treatment, we should know whom to treat. You will treat people with the acute hepatitis, but with acute liver failure. Okay? Chronic active hepatitis with HBe antigen positive people. Then chronic inactive cases but viral load more than 2000. Right? And in this cases, HBV DNA cases, more than 20,000, irrespective of the degree of liver fibrosis and alkaline liver transaminases, aspartate liver transaminases, more than 2 times normal, you will see, you will treat these patients. Based on HBV DNA, you will see that more than 2,000 more than 20,000 irrespective of anything you are treating this patient, but HBV DNA is more than 2,000 and ALT is raised or normal, plus moderate degree of liver fibrosis should be there. In these cases only you will provide the treatment. What are the antiviral agents that we are using? There is a chart I can show you. Okay, we can go for tenofovir or terbinafine, and tenofovir and emtricitabine are included for HIV, HBV co-infection. Can you treat hepatitis C virus? How many of you think that hepatitis C virus is non-treatable? Now we have treatment for hepatitis C also. Okay, initially it was just hepatitis B, but now we can see for hepatitis C also. We all know that under this immunization schedule, we give hepatitis B vaccine at 6, 10 and 14 weeks along with this DPT vaccine, and additional dose at birth we can give in endemic zones to these kids. Minimum interval between 2 vaccines should be 4 weeks. This all you will cover in community medicine also. Marker of protection, you should know that if antibody titer is less than 10, it means the person is not protected. If it's more than 10, then you do not need to do anything. It means that there are optimum antibodies in the blood serum. Okay? There's something called as no or low responders. People who have been vaccinated 2 times, it means 6 doses of vaccine are given to these people, and yet there is no rise in the titer, no protective titer is seen. These people are labeled as non or slow responders, okay, and the vaccination strategy stopped here. Only 2 times full doses they are given. If they do not develop optimum antibodies, they are labeled as non-responders. What are the indications for passive immunization in case of hepatitis B virus? There are people who are acutely exposed to hepatitis surface antigen. It means active case of hepatitis B and person who was operating or working with laboratory workers, surgeons, nurses, sexual contact, neonates born to the carrier mothers, or post-liver transplantations. What are the prophylactic measures? These are done at all the levels: screening of blood bags, semen and organ donors for hepatitis B, follow safe sexual practices, safe injection practices, and safe aseptic surgical practices, and health education. Educating people to follow all these practices. Coming to hepatitis C virus, it is also common cause of post-transfusion hepatitis. It was initially labeled as non-A, non-B hepatitis virus. It belongs to the family Flaviviridae. What are the other viruses under flavivirus? Yellow fever. Yeah. Then it is a positive sense single-stranded RNA. All are single-stranded RNA except HBV. It has all these structural proteins. All these proteins, 3 structural proteins: nucleocapsid core protein, envelope glycoprotein E1 and E2, 6 non-structural proteins, NS2, NS3, NS4A, 4B, NS5A and 5B. Out of this, NS1 was initially labeled as NS1. This is 1P7 membrane protein. It functions as the ion channel. Why are you studying these proteins? Because this is where the treatment is involved. Okay, all the drugs that you'll be using for the treatment, they'll act on all these regions in this virus. Okay. We do not have vaccine for hepatitis C virus because of all this serological diversity and gene coding diversity in this virus. So there has been no development of effective vaccine. The route of transmission is again parenteral, vertical, sexual. What was the incubation period? Average incubation period was 50 days, right? About 75% of cases, they develop asymptomatic infection. But acute hepatitis is seen in 20% of people. Spontaneous clearance is there in 5 to 12%, 5 to 15% of infection, where virus get cleared spontaneously within 3 months. Extrahepatic manifestations we saw, there could be cryoglobulinemia, hepatic glomeruloarteritis, arthritic joint pain. All this is more commonly seen in hepatitis C virus, but it can also be seen in hepatitis B virus. Okay. See what CDC recommends for testing of hepatitis C. If there is anti-HCV antibody found in patients, then you can go for HCV RNA detection, because this is the gold standard, okay. But in cases where there are immunocompromised patients involved, irrespective of the antibody negative, you have to perform RNA detection. This is recommended by CDC. This is the sequence of performing tests in immunocompromised and normal people, okay. I told you about the drugs. These are the directly acting antiviral agents that act on these genomic sequences. This is NS3A4A protease inhibitors. They end with the suffix previd. So you can go for pyritaprevid, imiprevid. NS5B polymerases inhibitors. They end with the suffix buvir, dasbuvir, suffix buvir. And NS5A inhibitors, they A asvir. Okay, just remember like this. B buvir, A asvir. So daclatasvir, ledipasvir, valpatasvir. These are the drugs. Okay. Other than this, we can go with interferons and nucleoside inhibitors like ribavirin. Coming to hepatitis D virus, in hepatitis D virus, you can see two kinds of infection. There is co-infection and super-infection. Just remember that when there is co-infection, hepatitis B and hepatitis D are causing infection simultaneously. They are attacking at the same time. So, rate of recovery is more in these group, but when there is chronic hepatitis B infection and hepatitis D gets added on, that is known as super infection. In these cases, 90% of cases will develop chronicity or liver failure. Okay. So, what is more severe? Super infection is more severe. And what will you see here? In case of super infection, you will be able to figure out this IgG antibodies already for core antigen, right? And IgG antibodies, it means there is already a chronic infection of hepatitis B virus. This will tell you that this is super infection. Rest here you will see IgM antibodies for both, because infection is being taking place at the same time simultaneously. Okay. Coming to hepatitis E virus, you know hepatitis E virus spreads through fecal-oral route of transmission. Everything is same as hepatitis E virus. Okay. It also develops IgM, IgG antibodies. No chronicity is seen, no carrier state is seen. Okay. Similar as the prevention that we take, precautions that we take in hepatitis A virus, we are taking it for E virus as well. But hepatitis E virus is the most common risk factor for fulminant hepatitis in pregnancy. Okay.